Hey guys, so welcome back to the channel. I have another Toyota ECM test. This time it's coming from Hawaii. Its name, let's see, because I actually moved the box 1 second. Should have that here. Brian Smittle from Hawaii. He said he has a code for P0776. I recommend him to do the test that I actually always do and I have shown multiple of these videos just before sending the computer, just to try to save money, right? Always I try to attempt to do that. All right, so I have everything pretty much ready to go. I'm going to even add the meter, because the first thing that I'm going to do is let's power out the computer and see if we have 5 volts. And we definitely see that we have the 5 volt reference, so that I have the bench test meter connected to, again, the spaghetti that you're going to see in a little bit. I mean, you actually can see it already here. It is a lot of stuff connected, but it's yeah, very important for the test that I want to do. All right, let me take you over to the display. I'm going to turn this one off and this one off so we can see that. Let me just show you in a second, because I want to remove that big corner screen. These are my connections. I do have a wiring coming for the connectors to create a harness, so I can have less of a intrusive, I don't know, view when I'm doing the test on these computers. So all right, so let's go over to the display, and I'm gonna take this one out of the equation, so we can see, or you guys can see that. And actually, let me remove that so we can see everything. All right, so right now everything is off. So everything is on. So I have an A channel on the blue channel, and the red channel I have solenoid B, and on the green and yellow I have solenoid A. Solenoid A, I'm using an injector, which is definitely not the correct one, so that's going to still create a fault code. And I'm going to switch the solenoids. I actually right now did a 4mm banana adapters on those connections right here. So these connections right now are 4mm banana adapters for the solenoids. I can remove and disconnect very quickly. So that should be pretty simple. All right, so going back to here. So again, we have those channels as I described. They're all 20 volts because these are 12 volt solenoids. On the upper left corner, I have made kind of like a diagram with all the connections that I need. And for these, I'm only using, well, we have the connectors. This computer has 5 connectors. Let's say 6 because the center is empty. So we got on the right side, E6 is a 31 pin, E7, 35 pin, E8, 32 pin, E9, 35 pin, and E10, 34 pin. The solenoids that I'm testing in here, solenoid A is in connector E9, as it says in here. Look at that red arrow that I'm moving in there. And it's pretty explanatory. The positive side of the solenoid is in pin 19, and the negative is on the pin 18 on that connector E9. Solenoid B, even though it says SL1 and SL2, those are exactly the solenoids for this. And I have already, with all my homework, I know that those are the correct, and I can show you also if I unplug or reconnect, disconnect the sensor, the solenoids, how the fault codes will come back. Powers, at least for my bench tests, I need an E6, 1, 6, and 9. Those are ignition, terminal 15, and I think I mix in here terminal 87 for my test. That's perfect. A constant battery power is on E6, terminal 3. Grounds in connector E8, pins 1, 4, and 7. And there's some other ones in the computer, but I went with continuity and I checked, and those are, let me just put myself in here for the meantime, and those are share. Bible reference in in connectors E6, pins 26 and 27, and sensor grounds in connector E6 too, pins 28 and 29. There is some other grounds in there that are interconnected. Those are the only ones that are S specific. communication, as I explained it, or as I put in here, there is two differences in this computer, and there is also on the grounds and some other connections that you have to look when you're doing this for the same 2.4 liters. If the vehicle is a PCEV or a not PCEV, that's super low or zero emissions vehicle, right? So the ones that's not zero emissions vehicle, which I think is his, and the reason I say that is because the ground on pin 4 is specific to the not PCEB, and this module has that ground. The one is for the other one, it has a ground in another pin and is E811, and that is not on this module. So I think I'm in the correct assumption. And I put the injectors and coils, coolant temperature sensor, again, ECT. Toyota always has put the THW as the coolant temperature sensor, the air temperature sensor, THA, and again, pin 8 in connector E1019 and so on. You can see that the part neutral switch is in pin 20 and the connector E10 and the IEC and the main power relay. I also put in there that the main power relay is a positive control because that's very unique. Not all solenoids or relays. Usually, most manufacturers control the relay on a ground side, and I'm going to show you that in here. So this is the one. Let me just get to that part of the diagram. I'm going to make this big so we can see this just quickly. All right, so main power relay, I'm going to get a box in here so you guys can see where I am. I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see me moving. I'm going to use this as a mouse. So we have, again, this is 5 connectors. E6 is considered 8, and I don't know what they keep doing that. If you want to name it A, just name it A. Why you put then E6 and then A, E7B, E8C, E90, and E10E? So just so you know what they're doing in here. So inside there, on here, right where I'm right now, let me make that a little bigger. You guys can see that probably better on the far distance. So right here we got pin 8, and inside there is at 8. So it's pin 8, and the terminal also has a letter where it says MREL. That's main relay, right? If we follow that line, so because in here it doesn't say anything like identifies that like 1, 2, 3, following the same thing, but we have black with a yellow, a black with a white, and a black with a red. So if we go back to the previous page, they are here. So let me get another one in here. So these are the connections, and we follow that black with a white that goes down to here to this fuse box, and then on pin 3, and it goes down into the control side of that relay. And if we follow pin 2 on the other side of that same control, right, control circuit, the other side is ground. So definitely, to activate that relay, we know that now that relay is power side activation. All right. So that's how I found all these connections. All right. So what else in here? I think the rest is pretty easy. All right. So I already selected the vehicle. Since I only have the computer, I did manually select the car, and that is a 2004 Toyota Camry. So we're not going to be reading the VIN number. All right, so codes. Let's read the codes, and you're going to see that solenoid A, even though both solenoids are connected, but I had the IEC solenoid that I use. Actually, the computer is happy with the resistance on that one. Well, I have to turn it on, and you'll see how the solenoids immediately come on in there. So let's retry to connect, and now we will have communication because the ignition was off. But yeah, we can see that how solenoid B up in the top is on, and solenoid A was on for just a brief of a second, and that is completely normal. All right, so current codes. I'm just going to scroll down, and we can see that we have P0778 pressure control solenoid A electrical, and that is just because it's not liking the solenoid. But that's it. We don't have any other fault codes for the transmission. All right, so let's go back because very unique to a Snap-on, and this is what I've been trying to address or explain how Snap-on is trying to stop other manufacturers or other scanners, not manufacturers, from using the correct data because they have the rights and they bought the rights very long time ago. But yeah, they don't give us everything for European, even though they're selling us the European portion of the scanner, and it's really, really way like backwards or not backwards, like behind. All right, so let's go back to the menu, and I want to go over to actuator tests, and I'm in the transmission side. So in here, we can use the shift. This is again very unique to Snap-on. You cannot do this with. I have top-down hotel. None could do it. And what I'm going to do is, even it says confirm that the vehicle speed is greater or is 50 kilometers an hour or less than 30 kilometers an hour. Sorry, 30 miles an hour. It is less, right? We're in zero. So we're going to click on everything yes. I want you to see, I'm going to just customize this because we don't really need anything but, so I'm going to deselect all. And the only one that I'm going to select is, oh, no, I don't know. It's the shift. I think that's it. Yeah, that's the only one we need. And we're going to graph it in there. So I'm going to make it, look at the second, and it's now showing as we are in second gear. So let me get this out of the way. If I click first, you're going to see the response immediately on the solenoids, on the oscilloscope, and also in here. So we're going to go into first. Okay, so that solenoid A, the bottom one, went up, and solenoid B is still on. Right, so that's first gear. If I move into second gear, now solenoid A, it went active and then down. And we have that response on there, right? So the shifting is happening. Solenoid B is active. Okay, let's go over to third gear. If I go over to third gear, now we have nothing on solenoid A or B, right? Even though it was a switching, and now it's active and the B because it's not liking it when it's seeing as far as the speed, and it went back to second gear. All right, let's do fourth gear. And we can see that the solenoid is moving. I'm going to put myself in here. So we can see the solenoid's reaction of the shifting. I'm going to go back to first gear again. We can definitely see the solenoids working properly, right? So we have solenoid A at the bottom, high now, and solenoid B active. Again, one more time, going into second gear. We had that activation. That hash in there I've been used because I have 100 milliseconds per division. If I change the speed, we definitely will see more detail, right? So that's exactly what we see. And I can put a trigger if I want to, right? Because I can put a manual or automatic trigger, sorry. And that will stop the capture from walking on the screen, but it will be too short of showing on the screen. So that's what I'm away a little more so we can see more of what is going on. All right, go back into first gear. Again, solenoid went high and everything is working as it's supposed to. If I jump from first to third, when the computer releases that third shift, it will go back to first gear. Let me show you that. So third gear, we went into that. You see, it's a very different actuation. And then it went back to first gear. You can see the solenoid A is high. When solenoid is A is in second gear, it should be A low and blue active, right? So that is a very big difference. You see, that is completely normal. So we can also do the same thing, go into first gear and then jump into fourth gear. And we can see definitely a change in there. But this time the solenoid stay high. You see, this is now how you can capture the differences in between shifting. Again, when it's in fourth gear, solenoid A is active and it will go back to active, right? So third gear, and it goes and it stays active again. Oh, because it goes back to first gear. I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, that was my mistake. So because if I were to select second gear, then solenoid is now low and it will become active briefly to do the shifting, third gear, just for a little bit of a second, and then back to non-active. Fourth gear, the same thing. You can see how blue, the blue solenoid, it goes off and then it comes back to second gear and then goes active. So realistically, I don't see nothing wrong with your computer, Brian. Everything is acting and working as it's supposed to as far as the solenoids. Now let's go back to the faults. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the computer off. Remember that we have solenoid A and electrical P0778, right? So I'm going to unplug just the one side of the solenoid on each of the solenoids, and then reconnect the computer, or turn it on, not reconnect. So as we can see now, the values on, let's say on the blue channel, we are reading 11.12 volts. And on the green channel, we are reading 1.73 volts. So that is whatever voltage is going through. And I don't know exactly which side I disconnected for the solenoid, so that can change a little bit on there. Because I think I disconnected the ground on the other side. But yeah, so we go back to fault codes. Let me move myself out of here so you guys can see that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this here. This one down like that. We can have the scanner up in the top. And you guys can see me too, right? Yeah, that's a lot better. Let me put also the view of the Sony A7S III so you can see where I am plugged two of the two solenoids. So we have one for the injector and the other one for the IAC. All right, the current codes, and I might have to, I switched I need to move this a little bit this way because I guess I changed the size. Yeah, that's better. All right, so right now we have P0748, which is solenoid A electrical, and P0778 solenoid B electrical. Why? Because they're both disconnected. So since I cannot erase, or we were seeing before that solenoid A was always there, I'm going to now connect, and let me move you over to here. I'm going to connect the solenoid that I have on B. So I'm going to, let me just think about this 1 second, guys, because yes, all I need to disconnect is this one right here. Because I got an spaghetti of wires in here. Not a problem because again, there's no power on this side, right? So nothing can short or get damaged. I just need to find the wires and I need to plug this now. So I'm going to plug. Let me see, positive here, and the negative in this one. So now we have, and I'm going to leave. Actually, I'm going to connect the other one too as well, but I'm going to connect it into the other channel. So we will be seeing reverse on the picoscope, the signals as we were seeing before, right? So everything is now connected, but I switched the solenoid sides. So let me turn this off, right? I'm going to click back in here because I did that with the ignition is still on. And then I switched the ignition off, so that momentarily lost communication. So I'm going to turn this off or get those out of the way. Now we turn this on. And we will going to see how now the blue channel will go off, hopefully. Not sure. It's liking a lot better if I connected it this way. So let me go back to codes only. Definitely we can see a different activation when I switch those solenoids. So it looks like the injector on solenoid B, the computer is keeping it active. And when I have the IAC on solenoid A, is now, solenoid A is keeping it active as well. So let me see. Yeah, we got the two false is still here. So let's erase fault codes, and that could be the situation or the reason why we see that on the screen as well. I don't see any change as far as the. Yeah, well, it is a change. Now you see that difference on solenoid A, well, solenoid B, actually. Yeah, and to turn it off. Let me just. So yes, so what we have right now, we see is the solenoids have not changed as far as which one is A and B because the oscilloscope are connected to those in the computer. What I switched was the solenoid itself. So right now, solenoid B is still active and solenoid A went down, which is exactly as it was doing it before, right? Let's just read the codes. It's still showing pressure control solenoid A. Pressure control solenoid A. Give me 1 second, guys, to see this. Just to make sure that I didn't connect. No, because it shouldn't. It wouldn't have worked. We have this one. Oh, they still are blue and red are in solenoid B, and yellow and green are in solenoid A. Yes. Trying to, it's a little hard sometimes to, since I don't have the original solenoid for this, and I think I'm going to spend the money on to get those solenoids and do, do the test with the correct solenoids in here. Because I can definitely see a different activation on solenoid B compared, solenoid A, I keep saying B, when we have that IEC in there. See how it's staying longer when we use the injector in there. It's not staying for this long on. Yeah, that code is gone now. You see that now, guys? The code is gone, but it is changing. So yeah, the computer is not liking that solenoid for some reason and is disconnected. But that might be correct. That might be correct because if I remember properly, when I did this test, and it is very unique to what transmission is in the car too, right? So emissions, what transmission is in the vehicle. So I have to be careful how much I show or what do I say because it's very, or there's a lot of differences that I have to take in consideration. Let's go over to the actuation one more time. Going to just say yes to all that. Guys, let me make sure that you're seeing what I'm doing right now, right? That's very important. And let me get this out of the way. All right, sorry guys that you were not seeing that. Retry communication. Make sure I didn't plug anything. Do I have Bible reference? Yes, we do. Said for the second that I didn't have communication, but that was not true. So we have the communication in there. So let's go to first gear. And we can definitely see a difference. I mean, it's a big difference right now, right? So remember before it was just a very quick on and off. And now we have, and when it's in first gear, a complete green, and it's going to probably do it for around 60 seconds. So let's just keep it in first gear because that's exactly how this should look. And then it will eventually just become completely on and disconnect. And that's how I have seen it in other cars. And we are seeing that happening right now. And when that gets active completely, and it will shut it off. Activates it again. So we're definitely seeing a very, very different response. Yeah, definitely very different response because it hasn't turned it off. So a very different response. Let's go to second gear. And now that solenoid A is off, blue stays on. So let's go over to the third gear. We see a little bit of that activation, then goes off, and now on, and back to solenoid A off. And I could definitely hear that thing like, doing its changes. Let's do the same thing for fourth gear. And here, I mean, it's a little bit different. I can definitely see a little bit of a difference on activations. Let's go back to first gear, where both solenoids should be on. Went to first, second. You can see that on the graph on the snap-on, and I like that from the two colors of the snap-on. Let's go to third gear and make sure the solenoid goes back to on. Again, this is an AX solenoid. It's not the correct solenoid for what we are doing, but again, all I'm really looking for is to see if the computer can move a solenoid. And I don't see that not possible. All right, let's go over to fourth gear. Off for a second. And then it should come back to on. And it did. Yeah, I don't see nothing running here, Brian. Neither with both solenoids. I mean, you can definitely see the, and hopefully you can also see because it's a very big difference when we have the IX solenoid into solenoid A part of the computer. The injector side, I guess in solenoid B, the computer is kind of happier with that one in there, or okay with it, but definitely not the same when we have injector in solenoid A. But realistically, the resistance that we have into that IX solenoid that I'm using for this test is very, very close to the originals that Toyota has. All right, if I exit here, we will see a change on that. You see that right there? I turn it off. So that is the way it's now. Okay, that was a test. That solenoid B will always stay on, and it will switch only when the transmission is shifting. But not on solenoid A. Solenoid A is only on when you're commanding a shift from first to second, and then from second to third for a brief second, right? So because it's allowing oil to go to different passages, right? Otherwise, you will not need a solenoid. All right, let's read the full codes again. Yeah, we're getting again that solenoid A electrical. Because it's not really the full code that he said that he has. Brian is telling me that he has P0776. So I'm going to make this part one, and I'm going to contact Brian. He's in Hawaii. I want to make sure that I do an extensive test, and that's what I did, those harnesses, and I did that. And even if I have to hold the computer for a little more and get the original solenoids and retest this, I will. And it's not that I'm going to send just the computer the way it is to Brian, because no, it's here. I always have a computer here. I replace capacitors, I replace the diodes. And I usually, if I don't find a problem with the computer like I did with Dog in Alaska, I resolder and I resolder the driver because I'm afraid of a colder solder joint, right? So a cold solder joint that is not going to be happening in here. It needs vibration. It needs temperature in the engine. And I do apply heat and I do a lot of stuff in the computers. I always check for make sure there's no corrosion. I mean, I can show you here. Let me put you into the Sony A7S III capture where you can see that this case is like brand new. I mean, I cannot show the other side because it has the information of the customer. This is the VIN number that he wrote in there, so he can see that. But you can see the covers are nice and clean. There is no water damage, no corrosion. I don't see anything burn. And the response on the solenoid is correct. We can definitely see the big difference in between one and the other when we switch to solenoid, and that's why I think it's time for me to really step up a little bit. No matter what, I got the harness coming, and I'm going to probably get those solenoid if I find them, and then do the test with the original solenoid. So there is no possibility of like something else. But realistically, if I can activate it on and off, even though I see those hashes, remember on solenoid A, the solenoid is staying on. So either a bit driver will be, even if it's intermittent, it will be intermittent and coming on and off and on and off. And that's not what I see here. I wish I have, and well, I'm actually very happy that I have the Snap-on to do this test, because with the other scanners, I was not able to even perform any of this test that we're seeing now. So, but I wish I could have a test to on and off and on and off and on and off. So, or put 50%, 20%, the pulse width, because if we see this waveform right now here on the display, and I'm going to change the time base as we saw, before, we can definitely see that we have a pulse width modulated signal, and that happens in both. But if I would be able to put 20% and then measure that 20%, I can say, well, the computer's I commanded at 20% and it's put in, 5% or 90%. I cannot really see or know what exactly the computer is willing to do in there. So, but realistically, a bed driver will not be able to pull to ground, and I can see that really well on both. So that's why I am always okay with the results that I have so far getting with these two solenoids that I'm using in here. Why? Because a bed driver will not be able to pull to ground. It will hang. It will hang. And remember, the command on these solenoids is, or both parts are controlled by the computer. So if we have, and I'm going to reset the false. Let me reset the false again, or erase the false, sorry. You see that right there? So solenoid A is also on. We can definitely see that activation, and there is on for shorter than solenoid B. Remember, ground side is on, the other one is off. So when it's like this, is ground side activated. Let me just rephrase that. Well, it is, because this is through the coil of the solenoid. So what we're seeing when it's like that is the actual solenoid being commanded on. The upper part will be not commanded on. Just waiting for that signal. And let me go out, because we are starting to see that diminishing and then disconnect. But you see, so no, this is actually the opposite, because this is actually good that I went back to that. Let's see if we still got the partial in there. So this is telling me the on is high and low is off, because as I'm a little tired. Also remember that we are having the two part of the solenoid with the oscilloscope. So yellow is ground side and green is the power side activation. So when power is applied, the solenoid is being commanded on. So yes, if it's power in here, the solenoid is on. So we're having both in there. So we can see a little bit of a jump on the ground side on both of the solenoids, right? You see the red channel up top is high and the yellow is high. That's normal. I mean, you're drawing amperage. But yeah, so in this case, the upper part of that waveform is the control on the control part of the solenoid. So this will be off and high will be on both solenoids on this channel the way I have it connected. Yep. All right. So I hope that that makes sense. I want to make sure the information that I'm sharing and I'm telling you is the correct information. Yeah, I'm going to stop again. Part one, I don't really see nothing wrong, even though if I have this computer, I definitely will take Brian's decision, not just jump the gun and replace parts without his consent. I always request approval from the customer because test fee is different than repair fee. But yeah, I'm going to place an order for those solenoids, and hopefully, we got a second part where we can see how the original solenoids are compared to the non-original. So what I'm going to do is now also off of the screen, I'm going to record. I'm going to change the time base on here, and I'm going to record the activation of these solenoids with the injectors, and I'm going to put my marks and everything. I mean, with the solenoids that I have, and save that for comparison when I get the other ones on. Okay. All right, guys, thank you so much for visiting the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye-bye.